Why, hello everyone, how are you doing this fine day? I hope you're enjoying your week. Welcome to another survival challenge, in particular, a Helldivers survival challenge, and more specifically, an Automaton survival challenge. That's right, we're making our way through all the factions. This is the final one, the Automatons. If you've never seen one of my videos before, the gist is simple. I take one faction or character or scenario or situation, doesn't matter what, and take four totally different characters or factions or whatever, and then just chuck them one at a time at that world and talk about what might happen. You know, what's the deal? They gonna be friends, they gonna be enemies, they gonna go to war, they gonna fuck? What's gonna happen? I don't know. That's why we're here. Let's find out. But I've wasted enough of your time. Let's get started. Before we begin, I suppose I need to tell you a little bit about the Automaton faction so you know what the challenge that these other factions need to overcome even is. So you're not just watching this video completely dumbfounded, having no clue what's going on, right? Sounds good. Let's do it. The Automatons can they're made out of like titanium, and they robots, and they shoot lasers, and they fly some spacecrafts, and they build factory. Okay, this is not a secret. I've been saying this for quite some time. I actually think the Automatons are like the most boring and weakest faction that exists within the Helldivers. They don't do anything particularly unique or interesting that like every other fucking faction doesn't do. The only reason why I'm even making this survival challenge is because I already did all the other factions, so it'd just be weird to leave them out. But honestly, kind of expecting them to get their ass kicked a lot here. Outside of their extremely heavily armored units, their ability to reproduce, and just their numbers as a whole, there isn't a whole lot here that's all that impressive. The fact that Super Earth can only actually damage them by using extremely high caliber armor piercing rounds across all of their guns is like kind of the most impressive part of it. The fact that they're capable of using fuel to power themselves from pretty much anything, including inventing like a biofuel where they use the corpses of their enemies in order to fuel themselves. However, it should be noted, that's not like the only thing they need. They have been shown using other fuel sources. I mean, even the cyborgs 100 years prior to the Second Galactic War were capable of running machines off of all sorts of different energy sources. And we know from both the cyborgs as well as the automatons that they are perfectly willing to steal technology and power sources from other people that they go up against in order to power their own shit. So in terms of like what they need to power themselves, they're actually really flexible, like more flexible than I would say most of these other universes are when it comes to how they power their machines. So that is something that will be helpful for them. Another thing that I think is very helpful is the fact that they don't really require water or food or really any kind of living conditions or society that matters in any way. Basically every single planet that's taken over by an automaton is just completely altered into a factory planet where the sole purpose of the entire planet is to just produce tons and tons and tons of automatons to continue to feed to the war machine against Super Earth. This means that their numbers are insanely high. There are single days in the Helldivers universe where there have literally been billions of fucking automatons that have died, and it doesn't seem to have even a slightest dent in their numbers or affect them in any real way. They even make things like factory striders, which are giant four-legged machines that are super heavily armored and are really only possible to be taken down through massive firepower. And the whole purpose of these things are not only to fight, but also to be mobile factories where they have the ability to create more automatons inside the fucking factory strider and drop them directly onto the field, which is fucking crazy useful. You're literally producing more troops on the field of battle in the middle of a war zone. I want to make sure not to understate how awesome that is and how useful that would be. But yeah, other than that, as far as like on the ground combat, there isn't really a whole lot. They shoot some lasers, they got flamethrowers, they got jetpacks, they got superheated chainsaw arms and giant rocket launchers and all basic shit. There's really nothing here worth noting that I could tell you that you would be like, oh wow, that's like really fucking cool. Nah, it's all the basic stuff. The only other things I could say that's helpful on the ground floor, which is actually, it's pretty interesting. They're capable of creating these giant communications array blockers, basically. I'm forgetting the name of them. And it just releases this signal that just completely stops any communication of any type. This includes not only voice communication, but also signals like with the stratagems just completely blocking them so they can't be used. But it does not seem to affect in any way the automaton communication systems, and I don't know how that's even fucking possible. Which means that the automatons are able to successfully set this thing up in battle. They will be able to use tactics and strategy just fine, but their opponents opponents can't and basically all have to work through word of mouth, which is an insane disadvantage in open combat. In terms of fleet, we know they have a very large and powerful one, second most powerful one in the entire Helldivers universe, second only to Super Earth, but we don't really know what it entails. There are certain things that can be inferred based on what we know. They most likely have the exact same travel technology that Super Earth has, where they can actually fold space and go from one location to another in seconds across even light years, which isn't exactly teleportation, but it's kind of like opening a portal, sort of. It's like lessening the space between 2 points so they can get there super fast. This is something that the Illuminates and Super Earth possess, and the Automatons are shown being able to go from one planet to another at a very short rate, basically the exact same speed that the Helldivers can do it in. So I don't see any issues with saying that they likely have that exact same travel technology. But yeah, that's basically it. As I said, there's a reason I think that this is probably the faction within Helldivers that has been the most ignored. The Illuminates have big ass black hole technology and teleportation and mind control. The Terminus can shoot spores into space to repopulate other planets at an insanely fast rate. They have the adaption abilities. They have the gloom. The Automatons are just really missing out on all the really awesome badass nuclear options that are going to be a massive problem for these other factions to get over. It's really just, can you beat their numbers and their really heavy firepower? And that's about it. So I really sold this video real well. Yeah, no, I'm sure everyone's super excited to get into this. First up on the chopping block, we have the machines from the Horizon series. Am I the only one who thinks that that's really annoying? When a series comes out and they introduce a new faction or group or whatever, and they just give it some generic bullshit name like machines. You know, like Evolve's monsters don't have an actual name, they're just called monsters. At least they have an excuse because the game got canceled and the servers were shut off before they like fully explained the whole universe. But I don't really see the reason why Horizon didn't give these machines like a legitimate name. They're just fucking machines. That's so boring. That's really boring. To give you a basic description of the machines, they're a bunch of dinosaur robots that were created by some stupid businessman long ago that was specifically designed to stop global warming, but then it got out of hand and he didn't say anything when he knew it was going out of hand, and he basically doomed the entire world. And now there's like a post-apocalyptic world where there's a bunch of machines that are self-sufficient, completely just build themselves back up and can use natural shit within the environment to power themselves so that their fuel source will never run out, and they'll just continue doing crazy robot dinosaur shit and killing people and all that kind of stuff. They're a post-apocalyptic threat somehow. Yeah, the reason why I say that is because these machines are stupidly fucking weak. Like, unbelievably weak. Even the strongest machines that exist within the Horizon series can be put out with a fucking wooden arrow. Like a wooden arrow made out of wood, like the shit that you get from a tree. They're super shitty. Now, to be fair, these machines are armored, and there's armor plating over like the weak points that you can kill them with the arrow in, you know? Like, it's not like the biggest dude you show up, shoot one arrow, and it dies. You have to like take its armor off, and then you can hit it in its little weak points and all that. I get it. Even though I will say that even little wooden arrows can still do damage, even not to those little weak, like you can still hit it with arrows and still do some damage. You'll take it down eventually. You might use a fuck ton of arrows, but you'll still take it. And my point is, that's weird, right? It's a fucking giant robot. Like, why are wooden arrows doing anything? There aren't any crazy futuristic weapons in this game. The main chick, Aloy, takes a stick, ties some fucking explosives to it, and just chucks it at the bitch, right? She makes a little bomb that explodes in fire or electricity and then flings it at him with a fucking slingshot. And this is how she kills these things. She can hurt them by hitting them with a spear. Like with her own little shitty human arms with a spear, she can walk up, she just tied a piece of metal to a spear, and now she's shanking these bitches and she's fucking killing them. That sucks. Say what you want about the automatons being weak or whatever, but even the absolute weakest of automatons, it still requires armor-piercing rounds being fired by a gun to actually damage them, which is not the case for the machines in this one. You also, the fact the machines are stuck to a specific planet, do not have space travel capability, do not have any way of fighting against a race of beings that can fly ships above the planet and just rain hellfire down upon it, which the automatons can do. You have the fact that all the machines are being controlled by a specific AI, and the automatons have the capabilities of stopping all communications, including the signals that the AI would do to send to the machines, basically guaranteeing that the machines will not start attacking people on sight and shit because they need to be specifically hooked up to Hades in order to do that. And there's no evidence that Hades can control other machines other than the machines that were specifically designed to be attached to it, since Hades is not capable of controlling other AI like Gaia, so you can't even say that Hades would be able to take control of the automatons, especially considering that odds are the automatons actually have human brains. I'm not going to say that for 100% fact. That's more so a theory that hasn't been confirmed, but most people think they steal the brains of humans, put them in themselves, and they have human brains with machine bodies. I don't know how much I believe that, because AI does kind of, to a certain extent, exist within the Helldivers universe, although the Illuminates are really the only ones that are shown to, like, use it. I don't think it's ever been shown that Super Earth has it, and I think this might be kind of the reason why they think that the automatons are controlled by the human brain as opposed to AI. I don't know. A lot of the stuff with the automatons is sort of up for debate, because they haven't really gone into detail about exactly how their faction works. We don't even know if the cyborgs are still around, if the cyborgs became the automatons eventually, and the automatons are just the descendants of the cyborgs, or if the automatons are the creation of the cyborgs. There's just so much we don't know. But what we do know is that automatons would absolutely rape the shit out of the machines without even fucking trying. There's nothing they can do. Their attacks don't hit hard enough to really do a whole lot of damage to the automatons. The automatons' weapons would absolutely fucking destroy the machines. The automatons have more numbers, better technology. They have the ability to actually strategize in war, as in the machines just kind of act like animals. They don't have the ability to use tactics or anything. They're not one massive fighting force that's even capable of building an army and properly warring like the automatons are. This is an absolute fucking wash. I hate that they're even here on the list. Why did you guys vote for this? These motherfuckers beat out the Borg from Star Trek and the Geth from Mass Effect. Why? You know they're not gonna win. Doesn't make any sense for them to beat them out. Okay, so for people who aren't aware and aren't a part of the Discord, a lot of times I will put polls on the Discord to see like what characters will appear in videos. This time around I made a poll with 6 options, and I said the 4 with the most votes are gonna be in the video. The 2 with the least I'm throwing out. The 2 with the least end up being the Geth and the Borg for some fucking reason, because I just think that would be way more interesting than what this is, but whatever. You guys voted, and I do that on the Discord because Discord allows me to make votes of more than 4 options. YouTube doesn't, so I wasn't able to make a voting on the YouTube community post. So if you want to be involved with possibly voting in who gets into what videos, go on the Discord and you'll be able to experience that. And maybe you could have gotten the Borg in this video or the Geth instead of fucking bullshit dinosaur machines that can't do shit. Like this, why? Absolutely terrible vote. Makes no sense. So dumb. If you're enjoying the video, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, and join the membership. Remember, you join the membership, you get access to members only videos, which are super fun and cool and awesome. You'll love them. They're great. Totally worth it. And don't forget to look for the Discord link down below in the pinned comments so that you can be involved in future votes, as well as join the live debates, enter the art competitions, all the other crazy activities that we have over there. So I hope you show up and do cool shit with us. Are you tired of this ad? I sure am. Let's continue on to the video. Next up on the list, we got the sis from Star Wars. Look, I get it. We don't let trans people in the military anymore, but I don't know. Naming your entire military cis, it says, let's go a little overboard. Twisting the knife a little too much, I think, personally. I mean, it does make sense they wouldn't let trans people in because, you know, they're binary. Huh? Binary? Because they're robots. Motherfucker, I'm giving you gold. So remember that poll I put on Discord that was like, hey, you know, vote to see who you want in the video and who you don't want in the video. Remember that one I talked about long ago? Anyway, just shut up, listen. In that poll, the faction that got the most votes were the cis, because people are just a bunch of transphobes. And it probably had something to do with it being tied to Star Wars, even though I don't know why, because Star Wars is a piece of shit right now, but whatever. The point is that I don't really get why, because the cis fucking suck. They're awful. They're really bad at what they do. And because they suck so bad, but there's still like, I don't know, 6 or so Star Wars fans left, they don't like to admit that they suck so bad, so they like to make up a bunch of stuff of what the cis can do and how awesome and amazing and overpowered they are, when in reality, they suck. So this section of the video is really just going to be me going over like how they suck, why they suck, and how all-encompassing that suckage is. So first off, one argument you'll hear a lot of people saying when they're trying to talk about the droids is they're insane over-the-top numbers. There's so many droids. Oh my god, there's quintillions, I've heard people say. Quintillions of droids. This is completely fabricated fabricated, it's made up. We have no actual number for how many droids there are. I don't know why I keep seeing this number, quintillions. It's not the only number I've seen. I've also seen quadrillions, I've seen billions, I've seen hundreds of billions, I've seen octillions. Every time you see a conversation going on where people talk about the Sith, it's always some ridiculous over-the-top number, but it's also always a different number because in reality, Lucasfilms has actually never come out with a legitimate number. We don't know how many Sith droids there are. We don't know how many planets they're in control of. We don't know how many factories that make droids exist. We don't even know how many different types of droids there are. There's so little information that we have in terms of just how big this military is that there really isn't even much of a point in talking about it, but people always want to talk about how insane their numbers are. The only thing that we know is that they outnumber the clone troopers. The problem is that we don't know how much they outnumber the clone troopers, and we don't know how many clone troopers there are. I've seen claims that droids outnumber the clone troopers 1 to 10. I've seen claims that they outnumber them 1 to 1,000. It's always different. And again, the official stance of Lucasfilms is that they've never actually given a number to any of these things. Not just the droids, but any faction within Star Wars. We don't have a legitimate number. So can people please, pretty please, stop arguing with me that Star Wars has this ridiculous number of fucking people in their military, because we don't know that. There's nothing stated that that's the case. You're lying. Stop lying. Okay, to be fair, I am kind of lying. We have one number that's given across the entire Star Wars universe, novels, and everything else. There's a single number. It's in Star Wars Episode 2, the Clone Wars movie, where that tall white bitch from Kamino basically tells Obi-Wan that there are 200,000 clone troopers ready to be deployed right now, and 1 million more on the way. Even if we're to come to the assumption that that 1 million more is prepared by the time the actual Clone Wars start and the clones go to war with the droids, that's still just 1.2 million. Do you really expect me or anyone to believe that the fucking Sith droids have hundreds of billions or quintillions or quadrillions or whatever fucking bullshit made up number you come up with, and that the clone troopers can not only fight against them, but actually beat them more often than not, despite the fact they only have 1.2 million people? If you're saying yes, I don't think you know how big of a number 100 billion is. Honestly, I think it's a stretch to say that the droids would have 1 billion. In order for that to be even close to an even fight, you would have to say that the average clone trooper can kill at least 1,000 fucking droids. That's if they only have 1 billion. And 1 billion is not that big of an army when it comes to a war on a galactic scale. The fact of the matter is that when it comes to this particular matchup between the Sith and the Automatons, I think a lot of people are going to try and argue for the numbers of the droids, and the only numbers they're going to be able to throw out are complete bullshit. The fact of the matter is that evidence very strongly suggests that the Automatons completely eclipse the fucking number of droids by a massive margin. The Automatons have complete ownership over like 30% of the entire galaxy, and every planet that they take over that we're aware of, they turn the entire planet into nothing more than one giant factory that just spits out automatons by the insanely over-the-top unknown number, however much an entire fucking planet factory can make. That's a lot. In the war between Super Earth and Automatons, they have killed hundreds of millions of automatons in just a couple of hours. Individual battles have seen billions and billions of automatons being killed and doing absolutely nothing to put even the slightest dent in their numbers. There are so many automatons. When you go to a Sith world, it's not a whole planet that's just a factory spitting out fucking Sith. It's a bunch of civilians and normal people, and there's cities that are populated by normal people, and there might be a couple factories on that planet that are making the droids. That's it. Do you have any idea how many droid factories would need to exist to be able to pump out the same numbers as a fucking single automaton planet? I mean, damn, in the Helldivers game, when you drop down to an automaton world, you have like that little area that you have that's like, I don't know, a mile or 2 wide, and there's like 8 fucking factories just in that one little section. Now imagine that across an entire planet. Honestly, I don't think it's a stretch to say that the automatons' factories outnumber the individual droids the Sith have. They, at bare minimum, have dozens upon dozens upon dozens of planets that are all just turned into planetary factories for fucking troops. Again, let me reiterate, the clone troopers at maximum had 1.2 million soldiers and were able to fight off and defeat the droid army. These numbers are absolutely fucking pathetic. Just for comparison, China has over 3 million soldiers. China has almost 3 times the military as the clone troopers. And they're a single country's military. The clone troopers are a galactic fucking force. And it's not like they keep making more and more and more clones every single day, because we know it takes 10 years for a clone trooper to be fully matured in order to be able to enter combat. So while I'm sure that as the war went on, there were more and more clone troopers and they probably got that number over the 1.2 million. Sure, I'm not going to deny that possibility. The fact of the matter is that it's nowhere near something like the Automatons, who could just spit out fucking soldiers like it's nothing. But even if we're not talking about numbers, like let's say for a second the Sith actually do rival the Automatons in numbers. No evidence for that, but let's just say it for a second. They fucking suck. They are incredibly stupid, extremely fragile. Their weapons are just basic fucking blasters. It's just like weak plasma weapons. I've already gone over that in other Star Wars videos. And while yes, there is the rare case of a more powerful, more advanced droid, there are like lightsaber droids that can mimic the fighting style of Jedi. There's the Magna droids that we see in Star Wars Episode 3 that are the bodyguards of Grievous with the little lightning sticks. There are the X-Battle droids, there are the droidicas, there's the heavy droidicas. There's a bunch of different droids that are way more intelligent and far more advanced than your basic battle droid and super battle droid. But those droids are extremely rare because the Separatists are unbelievably fucking cheap and don't want to actually utilize the money to make a lot of them. The vast majority of their army, like well over 90%, are these shitty battle droids and super battle droids that are fucking retarded. They're specifically made with extremely simple processors, so they're not capable of strategizing or planning in any way. They can't be reactive to whatever the enemy that they're fighting against is doing. They can literally only walk forward and shoot their gun at targets. That's all they're capable of doing, and that's the vast majority of their military. Again, there are many novels that go into how cheap the Separatists are, and that instead of using the money to make one really awesome droid, they would rather make 1,000 little shitty droids. When you look over to the Automatons, even the basic bitch shittiest unit they have is actually intelligent and capable of planning and strategizing and moving out of the way of gunfire. That's something that battle droids aren't even capable of doing. And those shitty weaker droids do not make up 90% of their fucking military. They are a significantly smaller percentage. You are far more likely to run into a destroyer or a Hulk or something like this in the Automaton military than you are to run into like a Magna droid or a fucking lightsaber droid in the droid army. I don't really think there's any debate to be had here. On the ground combat easily goes to the fucking Automatons. It's not even close. The only thing that I'll give the droids is the sheer variety of droids that they have. They have these things called the buzz droids, which you'll see in Star Wars Episode 3, where they fly around and they like destroy the ships and they kind of go on top and stuff and travel through space. The Automatons don't have anything like that. Things like sabotage droids and droids that can actually like fly through space and rip up their shit and destroy their ships and stuff, that's going to be super useful as far as space combat is concerned. But that's not going to be enough to turn the tide of battle when the Automatons are just this much more powerful in on-the-ground combat. You could literally send one fucking Automaton Hulk and he could take on literally thousands of droids without any real fear of being harmed, because his armor is too fucking durable for their shitty little guns to go through, and they're not smart enough to shoot him in the weak points because, again, they have very simple processors and are not capable of thinking for themselves. In Helldivers, Super Earth has plasma weapons, and their plasma weapons are significantly more powerful than the plasma weapons that exist within Star Wars. They literally shoot explosive plasma that has like a 5-6 foot fucking explosion radius. And these guns do not work on the more heavily automaton. You need way heavier weaponry in order to get through that fucking armor plating. This is not the case for the droids. The droids are basically made of plastic. You could literally destroy a B1 battle droid by just force pushing it on its back. And it can't get, if you knock it over, it can't stand up. It's done. It's out of commission. And while there are better droids and there are droids with better armor, like the Droideka with their energy shields, or even like the Droideka snipers that don't have energy shields but are just very heavily armored, they're still being shot at with much shittier weapons than what exists in Helldivers and what the Automaton have. And those shields are shown to be able to break with enough force. They're also shown to take up a lot of power for the Droideka, so they actually can't keep the shields up for very long before they run out of power and they have to like flee and roll away. Overall, I just don't see it. I don't see the Sith being able to in any way fight against the Automatons. There's just too many weak points. Smaller military military, smaller fleet, dumber and weaker military. Even when they do bring up the droids who are actually capable of strategizing, which I would argue they're not, even those aren't really that good at it, the automaton are capable of blocking all communication signals so they can't actually communicate with their troops, which will make that completely worthless. And the only thing the Sith actually have is a wide variety of different types of troopers, but they're not spread out across the military evenly. It's only like a very small percentage that it actually is even in that category. Most of them are just the basic bitch droids. So yeah, no, automatons fucking slaughter here. It's not even close. Next up on the list, we have the Cyberpunk universe from, guess what? Cyberpunk. I know, crazy. It's so crazy. So this is where we finally get to a conversation that I actually think is interesting, because the last two, it was just very clear the automatons whooped ass. In this one, I still think the automaton whoop ass, but there's way more to talk about in terms of how and why they whoop ass. And the reason why that is that as far as on the ground combat go, the Cyberpunk universe is far more impressive. They have much bigger, much more powerful machines of war that are capable of taking out tens of thousands of fucking automaton with ease. While I wouldn't say that your average citizen and normal fucking asshole within the Cyberpunk universe is superior to that of a basic automaton, I would say that basically every B tier character and above would probably whoop fucking most automatons' asses. The technology that Cyberpunk has is pretty fucking impressive. I mean, without even going into Sandevistan, which literally makes you so fast that bullets look like they're not moving when flying through the air. Even if they don't have a cybernetic like that, a above average tier dude in Cyberpunk can deflect bullets out of the air with a fucking sword. They're super, super fast. They are physically extremely strong, able to rip fucking vault doors off its hinges and easily bend and break and punch through fucking iron and reinforced steel and shit. Their weapons are capable of firing through these walls and through several layers of thick concrete and steel. It is not an expensive cybernetic within the Cyberpunk universe to have this underlying armor under your skin that's not exactly bulletproof, but pretty fucking heavily bullet resistant. And considering how powerful the bullets in the Cyberpunk universe are, that's pretty goddamn impressive. This doesn't include things like the mechs and giant fucking spider tanks and massive mines that they just launch at people during times of war and awesome nuclear weapons that are considerably stronger than nuclear weapons that we have in our real world. At least, you know, as far as they tell us. Because, you know, the government's always honest about stuff like that. And all of this stuff is vastly superior to anything that we see the automatons being able to do. Yes, the automatons are made out of titanium, and yes, they could shoot laser weapons, I guess. They don't actually say what these red beams that they're firing out are. Could be laser. I don't think it's plasma, because the plasma in the game is always shown to be blue, so maybe it's some kind of laser thing. We don't really know. Doesn't matter. It's not really shown to be nearly as powerful as the stuff that we see in Cyberpunk and the shit that they're capable of shooting. I think you can even argue that the most heavily armored automaton units, like the Hulks and stuff, will not be heavily armored enough to stop shots from a lot of weapons that exist in Cyberpunk, just basic bitch handheld weapons. And then as you continue on to the most powerful characters in Cyberpunk, like V, like Atom Smasher, who literally by themselves can take on whole armies without any issue, armies of people who have Sandevistans, and all the same crazy shit that I just talked about, and are capable of fighting against them on foot and whooping their fucking asses. Point is that on the ground combat, as far as I'm concerned, is pretty clear cut. Cyberpunk has a lot stronger ground units than the automatons have. But then the question becomes, will that even matter if the automatons have so many more people? Like, a very small fraction of the automaton army would outnumber every living soul on all of Earth in the Cyberpunk universe very easily, like super casually. There's less people living on Cyberpunk's Earth than there is in our real world Earth, because most of it's not populated due to nuclear fallout from a fucking massive war that happened years prior. I would not be surprised if the population of the Cyberpunk Earth was less than half of what it actually is in our real world. The automatons have lost more people than the population of our planet in single confrontations over the course of a couple of days. The number difference between the Cyberpunk fighters, which by the way, not every single person in their population is a fighter, let's get that straight, and the automaton population, which are all designed to be weapons of war. The main question here is that can the Cyberpunk universe, a universe that does not have space travel, they have satellites that are over the planet that they can go travel to, sure, but they can't go to other planets, they can't go to other universes or galaxies or anything like that. They're landlocked to one planet and not capable of actual space combat, and with a very, very small population, can they overtake an entire galactic empire that is the automatons, even if their ground forces are far, far superior? And honestly, no, I don't think so. the automatons don't even actually have to land on the ground to fight them on par. They just kind of have to park their ships over the planet and then just start raining hell down upon them, which they are capable of doing. We see that on their own planets when we invade the automaton world, they have anti-air technology that's capable of firing massive blasts and blowing up all our super destroyers. There's really no reason why they can't reverse that shit and just have it in the air turned upside down and then shoot down to the ground, just like mowing down whole cities. And there's really nothing limiting them to that. You can also go to their planets and find nuclear launch sites where you can fire giant nuke missiles through the air onto other parts of the planet, basically making them nuke themselves, but they do have access to massive nukes that can destroy whole cities and shit. So yeah, I don't see an issue why they wouldn't just park over the planet and blow it up. And there's really nothing that the Cyberpunk universe can do because, again, they don't have space combat. They might be able to fire nukes and stuff into the sky to fight against the automatons, but every time they do that, they're going to be destroying their planet a little bit more. And again, the automatons aren't going to care about that because they can go to whatever planet they want, but the humans in Cyberpunk are landlocked, so they'll just be fucking up and destroying their own atmosphere and slowly killing themselves even if they do that. The only other option that Cyberpunk universe has, which I actually don't think they have it, is the hacking abilities. Now in Cyberpunk 2020 and Cyberpunk Red, which are the tabletop games, characters were not capable of hacking into individual people or hacking into anything that they didn't have a specific connection to through the net. This changed for Cyberpunk Edgerunners in Cyberpunk 2077, where now you can actually hack into individual people. This wasn't possible in previous iterations because, again, not tied directly to the net, no Bluetooth, no Wi-Fi abilities, none of that shit existed. Those games were made all the way back in like the 1980s. So the concept of the internet hadn't really been thought up yet for the most part, like it wasn't very well defined. But now in Cyberpunk 2077 and Edgerunners, you can. People's personal cybernetics and literally shut it down, make them blind, do all kinds of crazy stuff to them. And the question here is that because each individual person is now tied to the net in a way that they weren't during 2020? Or is this because the hacking has gotten so advanced that they can hack people even if they don't have any sort of connection to the net or don't have any sort of Wi-Fi capabilities? I think the more likely scenario is that people are connected to the net. This is likely the reason why you can accept phone calls over your earpiece and you can get different messages from people. People can literally send you messages and you can read them on your screen, and they can do this wirelessly. Everyone in Cyberpunk 2077 seems to have some kind of wireless connection, which allows netrunners to hack into them and fuck them up. Even though the automatons are robotic, there's really no evidence that they have any connection to some greater internet and the ability to communicate with each other via Wi-Fi. If they were, why would they need to shoot flares up into the sky in order to get more automatons to come to their location? Couldn't they just contact them via some kind of radio wave built directly into their head and get them to come over that way? So it seems like every single individual automaton is a completely closed circuit, meaning that all of the hacking that the Cyberpunk universe has would be completely worthless against them. Now, maybe this might be different between automaton ships, where there's like multiple ships that do have some sort of connection to each other where they can communicate back and forth and do that perhaps hackers from Cyberpunk 2077 can actually go and deal with that, you know, in a hacking sort of way. But we don't have any evidence for that, and there's no reason to think that that would be the case if they don't put it in all of their normal soldiers. So I don't think the hacking is really going to be all that useful here. So what you basically have here is a vastly more powerful but smaller force landlocked to a specific planet versus a potentially infinite number of automaton units that can just keep sending people down to the planet over and over and over again and just continuously make more and more people to go and fight them, where it's just kind of inevitable to me that the Cyberpunk universe is going to fall regardless of how much more powerful they are. Now, I do see the possibility that they'll be able to acquire some of the technology of the automatons, possibly blow some of their ships down, then go up there and collect the pieces, sort of study it and advance their technology. But they're not really shown advancing their technology that quickly as compared to, say, the automatons, who can literally just salvage technology and use it immediately within a couple of weeks and literally make whole sub-factions within the greater automaton army in a very short amount of time. I just think it's a really big ask to expect Cyberpunk to suddenly become a multi-planetary species within the time they would need to in order to survive the complete destruction of their race by a damn near infinite automaton army. I do think this one is cool, and I think that Cyberpunk is going to put up one hell of a fight, but at the end of the day, it's kind of like if China invaded Hong Kong or something. I don't know. Russia and Ukraine, Israel and Gaza. Is there any examples I can use that won't turn the comment section into a fucking nightmare? No. No, I don't think so. Pick something. I don't know. A very, very large force invading a very, very small force. It's not going to be good. It's going to be really, really bad. Last up, but certainly not least, we have the YoRHa from Nier Automata. Okay, you know all the stuff I said about Cyberpunk, where it's like Cyberpunk has less people than automatons, but they're a lot more powerful ground troops, and that was kind of the basic gist of that whole thing. This is the same way, except way more extreme. So whereas Cyberpunk has significantly less, as in less than the population of our real world Earth, and the automatons have way more than the population of our real world Earth, the YoRHa androids, there's only like 200. It ain't even fucking close. The numbers are so far apart. However, an individual YoRHa android is so ungodly overpowered compared to anything in Cyberpunk or Helldivers that I don't think it's even gonna fucking matter. The automatons literally will not be able to do shit to a single YoRHa android ever. It doesn't matter how much time you give them. It doesn't matter what kind of technology they try to create. Nothing. There's literally nothing they can do. To give you an idea of just what a single YoRHa android can do, first off, they're all light speed. Every single one of them. There isn't a single YoRHa android that's not light speed, and the reason why this is because they can literally turn into light energy to travel, and that is a part of their dodge mechanic. When you dodge in this game, you turn into light to dodge. They are physically strong enough to fight against giant robots that are larger than skyscrapers and beat them relatively casually. Some of them are durable enough to survive an explosion from the black box. The black box is something that every single YoRHa has within their body, and when this black box is detonated, it creates an explosion that is said to destroy everything in a 250 kilometer radius. To translate that into, real measurements, that's about 155 miles. 155 mile radius is a 310 mile wide explosion. In the game, this explosion was shown taking out a mountain, but that kind of undersells the radius of destruction this thing caused. A 310 mile wide explosion would be big enough to destroy Utah, Colorado, and Wyoming. That's 10 miles bigger than the two farthest points of England. The whole country of England would cease to exist if this explosion went off in the middle of it. There is a YoRHa in this game that is at the center of this explosion and doesn't fucking die. This automatically means that there is no automaton weapon that they can use that will even physically harm a YoRHa. At least not a handheld weapon or a weapon from a tank. This basically means the only weapons that could possibly hurt a YoRHa in the Helldivers universe are nuclear weapons. Like the giant fucking rockets that you launch up in the air and blast, and even that might not actually kill it. And that's just the physicals. That doesn't count all the other crazy powers like the ability to stop time or the ability to turn matter into data. How do you even do that? That's like magic. What is that? Yeah, they can take an actual physical thing, turn it into data, and then put that data inside themselves to acquire knowledge of that thing or even upgrade themselves. So if a YoRHa comes across an automaton that's more advanced than her in any way, she can then turn that automaton into raw data, put it in herself, and then upgrade herself to match whatever that thing was. Now that technological advancement over her no longer exists, she has now caught up to it. She can do this with literally anything. She can create random constructs out of light that just appear in her hand so she could swap weapons or items or guns or whatever. Due to this ability to just create matter, she never runs out of ammo, ever. It's literally not possible. Her weapons could never break because they're literally light constructs, and even if you somehow did break them, she could just make another one. She heals because her body is filled with nanobots that constantly heals every time it gets any amount of damage. Not that that's gonna even fucking happen here. If you do happen to kill her, her consciousness and memories removed from her body and go into a new unit somewhere else, so she can resurrect good as new. Oh, and by the way, any upgrades or enhancements that the old body has also gets transferred to the brand new body she has. So that means every time she goes out there, fights and gets stronger and stronger, and you kill her, well, the next one that comes is going to be equally as strong. In the Nier Automata series, there's this energy source called Mesa, which comes from a totally different, like, interdimensional type place. And the energy source is said to be able to alter physics and reality, and the YoRHa can utilize this energy source freely, however they want to use it. Which means they can literally fuck with physics and reality. This is not a fight the automatons can win. When you are this much more powerful than your adversary, it doesn't matter how much more numbers they have than you do. We don't know how many planets the automatons have, but in theory, the YoRHa can drop a single android onto 200 different automaton worlds, and you just caused a fucking end of the world scenario. You might as well drop Thanos on all these fucking planets and just see what happens. There's literally nothing the entire planet can do, and these fucking things can just go ham, killing millions of fucking automatons if they want to. Now, if the automatons can somehow get some sort of technology that can just blow up the planet, just blow up Earth and the satellite that creates the YoRHa and all that? Can they solve the problem and win? Yeah, sure, why not? Problem is that we don't have any evidence that the automatons can blow up a planet as of right now. The only thing we know in the universe that could straight up destroy a planet is the whole black hole creation technology, and the automatons don't have that. The biggest thing we've seen they have are really, really large nukes. And really, really large nukes may actually not be enough to kill these YoRHa depending on how big they are. And again, even if you did kill the YoRHa can just rebuild itself and come back. Even if they destroyed the satellite where the YoRHa are created, that wouldn't matter because there are several ports down on Earth surrounding the entire world that build YoRHas from scratch solely so their consciousness can go into those new ones. The automatons would have to go around the entire Earth and destroy all of these little points where the YoRHa can spawn from. Every single one across the entire planet. And they'd have to be able to do that without the 1 of 200 YoRHa fucking slaughtering 10 million of them as they chuck them all down there, which would be really easy, actually. They're so fast, they can kill most of these dudes before they even have a chance to think. No, this is brutally one-sided. This is insane. Like, this is a stupid matchup. What are they gonna do? But that's gonna be all for me. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, and join the membership. Remember, if you join the membership, you get access to a bunch of cool videos that other non-members don't get access to, which is really, that's fun, that's cool. And always remember, y'all stay safe out there, you hear?